Ben Baskin joins us, Monday Morning Quarterback, Sports Illustrated Monday Morning Quarterback here on Big Board Sports. Good morning to you, Ben, Roger Weiland, and Chris Honorado. Thanks for a few minutes.
Hey, good morning, guys. How you guys doing?
We're good, Ben. We're good. I'll start with even though the Patriots are our regional team of interest here, but that was a blowout game after Tennessee scored the first touchdown. It was all New England, but take me through what your thought process and what happened at the end of this Minnesota game.
It's hard to put that game into words, really. I feel bad for anyone that had to write it, and it was actually funny because that's what, I don't know if you saw my boss, Peter King's MMQB this morning. He started with the idea that Case Keenum told him, how are you going to write this?
Right.
Like, even the players knew that this is not something that's going to be able to kind of be put into words, because I don't think we've ever seen anything quite like that ending. And as you said, it was one of those things where the game ends and everyone's sort of looking at each other like, wait, is it actually over? Is there another play? Did he go out of bounds? Is it coming back? I find myself just feeling very bad for the Saints fans and the Saints players, and very happy for the Vikings. It's one of those plays where, like, you can't quite understand what happened, and it's a breakdown on defense, obviously, one of those where you just have no idea how they don't make that tackle, and one of those where the Vikings set up a play to try and get a last-second 53-yard field goal, which seemed like almost an impossibility with the clock running down. He catches it with about 3 seconds. So if he steps out of bounds, even if they don't make the tackle and he steps out of bounds, it would be tough to get to have that with time left to kick a field goal. And yet a complete breakdown that ends up with Stephon Diggs running completely untouched into the end zone. And I think it's going to be one of those games that we're probably going to be talking about for a very long time. I've never seen anything like it, and I don't think anyone's seen anything like it.
Does the blame all go on the safety here, Marcus Williams, and how he played that final play?
Yeah, in a way, yes, of course. He's the one that allowed that touchdown, and I don't know why you don't go for a wrap-up tackle there. I don't know. I always don't want to say the blame goes right to the players, because I always think that there's a communication there that we don't know what happened. I like to think that the coaching staff should impress upon his defense going into that play that, hey, wrap the guy up, try and keep him in bounds. It doesn't matter if he completes the pass. It seemed like Marcus was coming in for a shoulder-crushing hit to try and break up the pass, instead of just trying to wrap the guy up and bring him in bounds. So, of course, he's the one that ended that had the mishap on that play. But I don't know. You see, my heart breaks for these guys. You see, he had an incredible rookie season, and that's going to be a play that'll. Apparently, he had his head in his hands in the locker room. He was crying. So, you don't want to see those guys have to deal with the invective from the fans in the aftermath. But it is a confounding decision to try and go for a truck stick type hit instead of just grabbing the guy by his legs and pulling him down. It was one of those where he's up in the air. Diggs was jumping, reaching for the catch, and he's coming in unimpeded. And if he wanted to, he could just grab him and pull him down. But I think for some reason in the back of his head, he's thinking he wanted to break the pass up. Maybe he thought they had a timeout. So if he caught the pass, they'd be able to call a timeout and kick a field goal. But it was clearly a breakdown on defense. And the worst part is that not only did he miss, he then hit his teammate, the other safety. So there was no one there to chase down Diggs. He was completely. You very rarely see that on the last play where there's absolutely no back line of the defense. He was just completely waltzed into the end zone. He could have walked the last 40 yards.
Sports Illustrated's Ben Baskin with us. He's breaking out the Madden terms with that final play between the Vikings and the Saints. You can find Ben on Twitter at Ben_Baskin, and you'll find all of his work that you also read in Sports Illustrated Weekly, like a great Julio Jones piece on how he became arguably the NFL's best receiver, and most recently Alvin Kamara, who had a terrific catch for a touchdown for the Saints yesterday. Ben, I want to stick with the NFC, and then as Roger mentioned, I would like to ask you about the Patriots. But the Eagles are going to be home dogs again. And as Raj said at the beginning of the show, that's going to be bulletin board material for the #1 seed and the home team in the NFC Championship game. Is this, though, do you believe this is the first year we see a team play in their home stadium for a Super Bowl? And that would, of course, be the Vikings in Minnesota.
I would say yes. Right now, I think the Vikings look like a much better team than the Eagles do without Carson Wentz quarterbacking the team. I know everyone was very complimentary of Nick Foles' game against Atlanta because he didn't screw anything up, and his passer rating was pretty good. You know, he looked like, you know, he didn't blow the game for them, but against the Vikings defense, which had Drew Brees looking like a rookie quarterback in the first half of that game yesterday, I don't know how the Eagles are going to muster many points, especially their running game did not really look great. It's with Ajayi and Blunt, they're going to have to get a lot of production out of them to give Foles a chance. It's just a tough situation for the Eagles. They have home field, but I don't know. The Vikings defense, they seem to get a little complacent in the second half there. And Drew Brees is Drew Brees, and he reminded us why he's one of the best quarterbacks of all time and put together a great second half. But in the first half of that game, they looked like one of the better defenses you're going to see in this playoffs. And that's not – the Eagles have a great defense, too. They've looked very good, and Case Keenum is obviously not a playoff-tested quarterback. He had a pretty good game, but I would imagine that if you had to ask me, I'd have the Vikings in the Super Bowl. It just seems it seems too good, right? Too good to be true to have a home team playing in the Super Bowl. Although not too good for the NFL, who has been ruining the chance of this all year long. I don't think it makes everything a lot more difficult to set up a Super Bowl when it's the home team involved. So that'll be an interesting thing as well. But I do think the Eagles should be an underdog this week. I didn't actually think they should have been against the Falcons. I would have had the Eagles over the Falcons, but I think the Vikings are a tough team this year.
Fly, Eagles, fly, baby. I got Philadelphia, and they're being dissed again. They're going to get it done again. Everyone thought Atlanta. Now they're going to think Minnesota. Philadelphia will win this weekend. Right. They are going to the Super Bowl, Ben. We can agree to disagree on that. Give me your quick thought on this Jacksonville win in Pittsburgh. Surprised the heck out of me. There was no way you would have told me that Jacksonville, you're going to tell me it's going to be a close game? Okay, I'll give you close. If you tell me that Jacksonville for the second time this year is going to Pittsburgh to win to go to the AFC Championship game, there was no way I would have ever agreed with you, but that's exactly what happened.
Well, it's also, if you said going into that game that the Steelers were going to score 42 points on the Jaguars' defense, I would have been like, oh, so it was 42-3? It was 42-7? Like, that's not – if the Steelers are putting up 42 points, you have no thought that the Jaguars are winning that game. A Blake Bortles run offense scored 45 points against the Steelers in Pittsburgh. It's almost as impossible to comprehend as the Vikings touchdown was. I'm not really sure what happened there, but the funny thing is that the Jaguars, we kind of end up stuck in our ways in the NFL where and I've been guilty of this too, because I did not expect that to happen, because you equate the Jaguars in your mind to what we've seen the Jaguars be for the last 15 years, which is a team that has no chance of beating Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh. And you equate the Steelers to be the team that we've seen them be. So I think we just get a little caught up in the fact that, this team hasn't been good in years before, but the Jaguars are a really good football team. They have an incredible defense, even though the Steelers, the Steelers had some success on offense, obviously, but the defense is still great, gets pressure on the quarterback. Leonard Fournette is just a beast of a running back. It's impossible to contain him for an entire game. And Blake Bortles has been surprisingly un-Blake Bortles-like all playoffs. I don't know. He's not, obviously hasn't had one touchdown. He hasn't been great, but he's letting them win games. And I just feel like the Jaguars and the Vikings are in similar predicaments over this whole playoff and the whole season, really, is that everyone's kind of been waiting for the other shoe to drop on both teams. Like, the Vikings always do this. This is last year. They've been good, and then they fall apart. And the Jaguars, they can't be good. And then now it seems like, maybe they have been good this whole year long, and we just have been refusing to believe it. So, but we're going to get that same thing here. We had Jacksonville going to New England for a conference championship game. It's like, I don't think anyone believes that they're going to win, but it'll be an interesting one. It'll be hard to wrap your mind around Tom Brady losing a game to go to the Super Bowl against Jacksonville at home. But I'm not going to rule it out right now.
Yeah, I would be shocked if New England loses that game in Foxborough with the Super Bowl. I
might be dumb enough to pick it.
Yeah.
We'll see on Friday.
I think it's like a nine point spread, somewhere in that range. So we got the rest of the week to figure it all out. Ben, always a pleasure. Great work from you, and we appreciate a few minutes here on Big Board Sports.
Of course. Thanks, guys. Looking forward to the next time.